Thank you. You took all the people away.
I'm putting up our presentation.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, but okay. I like to have the people.
I can put it down until my presentation if you prefer.
I'm sorry, but yeah, just because it's easier for me if I can see who the people are. Okay, so we will call to order this regular meeting of the Hampton Board of Education at 7:05 p.m. And we'll start with audience for citizens and staff. Are there any citizens or staff who would like to speak?
Rose?
We have 6. Yes. Alan, hi.
Okay, Hill. Good evening. First off, I'd like to thank who's ever in charge to finally getting the flag raised up in front of the school. I appreciate it. Also conversing with the town auditor this morning, he's still waiting for a report requested in September, the OPEB report. If we don't have it by, I think next week, Tuesday, I'm going to have to request another extension from Office of Policy and Management. So I wonder if we could work on that.
Thank you. We will.
Do you think that could be satisfied by next week, or should I need to request another extension?
Mrs. LaHoo, can you comment?
Yes, I was working on that today, Alan. The site is back up. It wasn't operating for a while, so I was working on that today, and I should finish that tomorrow.
Thank you. And Sally, I just found your request on info on the ECS Educational Cost Sharing Grant. I have nothing to add, but I'll work on that tomorrow. And I have an ECOG meeting Friday morning, so maybe I'll have more information. I'll get that to you as soon as I have it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments? Then we'll move on to correspondence to the board. I don't have any. Do you have it? No, Dr. Sarli doesn't have any. Approval of the minutes from 12/21/2022. Those came out this afternoon, I think.
Yeah, but I only sent them to you, Rose, and Dr. Sarli and Sally. I didn't get them to the whole board.
Oh, sorry. So let's not do this till next meeting.
I apologize for that, guys.
They were very well written.
And welcome, Ramona.
Ah, yes. She goes by Mona, though.
Welcome, Mona.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to jump into the superintendent's report. And you're muted.
Sorry, I think I have too many things in my hands right now. John, I'm just putting the phone down because you should be okay to hear me without me holding you to the computer screen at this point.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I can hear everybody, actually.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Okay, so Rose, if you're okay, I'm going to share my screen at this point. All right. Okay, everybody. So for this evening, I am going to be sharing our 23-24 proposed budget. So what you'll notice on every single slide is what matters most to us, which is our children. And so to begin, I'm starting off with what makes up our budget. And this graph right here represents the different pieces of our budget, which everyone was able to, and the board able to pull apart in all the different fashions. But this kind of consolidates and makes it a little easier to understand every piece of our budget that contributes to the success of our students. So what you're looking at here is the largest chunk of our budget, which is 67.33%, is our wages and benefits of the people that influence our children and make their academic and social emotional success. Facilities makes up the 9.35% here, and that's our maintenance, our housekeeping, our oil, electricity, repairs. 7.36%, that green slice right there, is our transportation line. So that's our buses getting our kids to and from school. 6.81, that purple slice right there, is our purchased services, which is our students' needs, including OT, PT, our IT services through EastCon, our auditing, our legal, our liability. Then you're looking at that lighter blue, the 5.73%, which is our tuition for outplaced STEM students. The orange is the 2.47% makeup of supplies, which includes not just our instructional supplies, but it also includes health room, office supplies, building and ground supplies, such as paper towels, mulch, cleaning supplies, things of that nature. And that last almost percent, that 0.96, is our CAF percentage. So this graphic here is really just a different way to visualize the budget outside of just looking at the line by line numbers. And this right here, the largest part, our staff and our students, because this is what makes the largest impact. And what I want to share with you is a pretty impactful research-based analysis of John Hattie, who had synthesized 1,000 research reviews of 50,000 studies. So this was a really intensive research that Hattie had performed in both 2013 and 2017. And the findings were that the greatest influence on student progression and learning is having highly expert, inspired, and passionate teachers and school leaders working to maximize the effect of their teaching on all students in their care. And in fact, collective teacher efficacy has a stronger influence on achievement than any other factor at the school teacher or student level. And so I share that with you because for such extreme research that's been out there, that work really harnesses every bit of our school. And you see that in the images shown here of all the different parts of our building and what our kids get to be exposed to and experience to make them successful from Hampton Elementary through into their greater educational outgoings. And then to jump into different parts of the budget, the first one right here is a budget history overview. And this gives you a trajectory from the 2010-2011 school year budget all the way up to this proposed budget at this time. I'll just take a pause for everyone to take a minute to look at what has happened over the years. And for those of you who don't have this in front of you, I'll just give you a minute. Okay, so you probably were able to see that there was either a zero increase, some minimal increases, or negative increases over the years, which had different reasons year to year, historical reasons and rationales that went through that. And so we're going to just begin looking at our own budget for this year and the changes that you'll see from the previous year into this year. So to begin, which Rose, we were talking about a little bit earlier, I highlighted some of the key changes that were there. So the first highlight there is that superintendent line that you'll see appears to be a change. And if depending on what packet you were looking at, you will be able to understand that it's not an increase in salary at all. It actually includes the insurance stipend from the prior super. So it was taken from that line item and moved up. And actually for the 23-24 proposed budget, I have put a 0% increase at all. There's no percent increase in my salary. It's contract as is with no addition or percentage increase. So I know what it appears to look like when you see it in that fashion, but it is not an increase. So then the next highlighted marker you'll see here is the certified staff line. And the certified staff line, you'll see that reduction. And the reduction is coming from two changes within our specials programming and moving our PE from 0.7, so our physical education and health class from 0.7 to 0.6, and our art from 0.4 to 0.2. And the rationale behind that is due to just more strategic scheduling. Students will not lose out on physical education, health, or art. It's a more effective and efficient use of our current structure. And then the last item that you'll see highlighted on there that may have stood up to you, and if you didn't get a chance to read through the summaries of that, you'll see that the special education line doubled, and that's because I'm proposing that we increase our special education director from 0.2 to 0.4. Our special education population and our needs of our students is very high. And we're roughly around 30% special education population. And compared to where our student population, you can see how crucial a role like that is. And the oversight of really high needs is critical to our students' success. So that's where you see that double. The next line item that I highlighted here is the health insurance, because you may have noticed that there's a decrease after we talked about the increase that was going to happen. So what happened was we did budget for a 20% increase based off of what we've been hearing. However, we have had changes in our current staffing who have made changes to either their plan or from opting out themselves. And so we do not actually anticipate on having an increase to or an impact to our budget at this time. In this next line, the 300 line, the legal services you'll see here have increased from the 10,000 to the 20,000, and that is because we are entering our teacher negotiations for next year. So our legal services based off of previous years and costs and rates have increased. We have an anticipated $20,000 set for that. The other line that you'll see here that is highlighted is that professional development line. And the professional development line was decreased because we're really moving that into a homegrown professional development that's going to be supported by myself and our principal, Ms. Sam Roberson, as well as our new curricular professional development that is not only included in the curricula itself, but also a network that we're going to be part of. And so the professional development need is always going to be high, right? That's how we continue to build our teacher efficacy and continue to make really strong gains for our students. It's just that it's going to be done more in-house, which has a cost savings associated with that. In the 400, I have highlighted our anticipated cost of electricity based off of our usage and where we're seeing the increase there. Excuse me. In the 500, you'll see I have highlighted the tuition in public, and that was because we have a 3% anticipated increase for our current 8 students who do attend the STEM program. And I'm going to continue to the next one at this point, which is our supply line. And there's a couple highlights there. So to begin, 611 is instructional supplies and 641 is textbooks and workbooks. And so you'll see those increases there because of the new legislative curricula that is being imposed in the science of reading. And so we need to, in order to be compliant with legislation, but also be more effective in our reading instruction, we have to invest in reading curricula. And so this is the 15,000 is, we will have to use some of our instructional supply lines. So we're actually taking a little bit from it as well, because that's a conservative number. Everyone has come in over the 15,000, but in utilizing what we have, this number should get us through to be able to purchase the new science of reading curricula program that we will be implementing. And then of course the bigger ones here of being our heating and our diesel costs. And again, that was based off of current usages and our we were able to lock in at 3.4751 per gallon for 7,000 gallons for the next school year. And then the last one, there isn't any highlights there. Rather, it's the last part of the 700 equipment line and our other objects. And if anyone was curious about the transfer out of the CAF line there, you'll see that negative number. We have a cafeteria fund that we use, and it's there in order to like when things, for example, we just bought a new kitchen dishwasher, and so that fund is there, and we anticipate a carryover. And so for the next school year, we were able to decrease it a little bit and know that we will just use this to cover our school lunch program, which is through our EastCon. And so at this time, I will take any questions, and I'll open up my screen so I can see you all. Alan?
Excuse me, what's the state average for special ed or ERG average for students with special educational plans?
That's a great question, Alan. And I would like to get back to you with a figure, but I can tell you that we are quite high, and it's something that we're currently working through. So our special education director is only once a week, but she's already been investigating, and we've been curbing our own SRBI process to ensure that we're actually not over-identifying, but identifying properly. You know that I've only been here since August, and our special education director has only been here really a year this year. And so we're really uncovering and digging deeper into what was previously done and ensuring that we're properly giving students what they need, as opposed to not knowing what had happened. So we would never take away from kids. That's not something we would ever do, but we want to make sure that students are getting what they need in order to be successful.
Thank you. I want to make sure the budget covers those needs. I just know a couple of years ago, we started our cooperative study, we were under that 25, 23 or 24%. So I know with small numbers, it only takes a pupil or two to change that. So 30% is high.
Yes, yeah, it is. Any other questions, Mark?
Just Dr. Sarli, the other night when we talked about this, one of the things that we discussed was just the number of students, like between October of like 2022 and then 2021. Do you happen to, or if Sam has those numbers, do we have those?
I mean, Sam will be able to give us the most current report, but Sally and I were able to pull up the 1021 numbers and the 1022 numbers. And Mark, I remember it to be, you wanted to know the, not just the students in our building, but the total Hampton students, correct?
I believe so.
The responsible
Yeah.
number?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
So the responsibility for 2021 enrollment was 137 students, and in 2022 was 127.
Okay. And then I guess, you know, I'll be the mouse that wants a cookie with its glass of milk or vice versa. But I guess we would need to know the enrollment. Like, I think I have the 2021 enrollment in school, and what we're outplaced with 78 in 2021. I just don't know what it was in 2028. I can look at the principal's report and find out though.
The October, if you're looking just for the in
Yeah.
Hampton numbers for the October, so that October 1 number, which again, it's going to look different to what you get, because every month you get a more updated number.
Right.
But that October number was 66 with 75, including our.
That was in 2022, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would
Why
you
is
please
our
repeat
enrollment
that?
increasing since October?
I'm sorry, I heard, I think, two voices at the same time. David?
This is David.
Hi, David.
Why is our enrollment increasing since October? What happened?
That's a great question. So as families move into town and they enroll them into our school system, we've seen a couple of students do that, as well as into our pre-K system. So as students turn of age to be able to attend our pre-K program, they're also enrolling. So you'll see that increase actually in this month's enrollment numbers in pre-K. So it's the combination of families moving into town, as well as students becoming part of our pre-K.
And you got +3 on out STEM.
Based off of,
Outplaced.
yeah, so
STEM.
so what was anticipated last year was not the actual for this year,
Right?
which is what, remember we talked about this probably a few months ago at this point, why
we
we saw
did.
that increase in general, but there was 3 more than anticipated. So now that we know of those students, we're planning for those same 8 students because we wouldn't know necessarily of more at this point in time attending. We just know that that is what we can plan for the next year.
Just to note, our population has grown a little. That's good. All right, I guess.
Yeah. And Mary Ellen, did you
Yeah, I couldn't hear the enrollment for 2021 and 2022 in October.
in 2021 there was 73 in and 79 total. And then, excuse me, in 2022 we had 66 in and 75 total.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Diane, I have a question, but if you want to go first, go ahead.
I think you could go on.
Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you, I can't support this budget anyway, anyhow. I think it's way too high. I think we're being really liberal with our money and just seem to be passing it out along the way. I have a problem with the number of the high number of special ed kids in our school, because that's not the norm for the state. And we've always been way higher than we should be here in Hampton than the state average. So I have a problem with that too. And doubling of the salary for the special ed directors, you may be doing a great job and a quality job, but that's still a lot of money for 2 days. And you know, when we first hired you and we gave you those $5,000 from the other superintendent that's been carried to use for your insurance purposes. Hi. I think we should have done that at a slower pace and a little bit at a time rather than right up giving you a sub lump that represents more than you were actually contracted for. It's just, I don't think the community will support a 5% increase in all of this. I for one will not support it, and I will tell people that, and we'll see what the vote comes out to when it goes to the finance board, and then when it goes to the town. And the town has always been very conservative and very careful with their money, and now it seems like we're just throwing excess numbers that we shouldn't. Thank you.
Okay, Rose, I think that's it then.
There's
Rose,
no further. Yes, Mom?
if the superintendent, I still haven't gotten an answer for the reading program we're getting, to what extent our kids are at what different levels. And will that program actually help everybody? Because that's what we're talking about.
So we need presentation on the reading program. I'm surprised there's not more discussion on the budget now, and I think we left a lot of time for the budget discussion. But perhaps, Dr. Sarli, we could have a discussion of the reading program at the next board meeting?
We can. I would like to know what you want to know more of, because I gave the presentation last month and we are in process. We haven't chosen a program at this time. Our teachers haven't had the opportunity to work with what legislatively we're allowed to choose from. So I would just like to know what you would like to see in that presentation.
Juan, can you?
Yes, I'd like to know what broken down to the grades, what kids are beginning readers, what kids are transitional readers, what kids are proficient, and what kids have shown mastery. Because we're buying a totally new program. And is this program going to be beneficial to all of these children in different ways?
Okay,
Because
so
Brad,
you really want a data presentation,
My
Juan?
question last time was, I asked the superintendent to give us to tell us in either numbers or in percentage, that range that I just said. That's what I want to know. I just want to know the range of the ability of the kids reading in our school. Because we're buying this reading program, and I want to make sure that this reading program is going to benefit everybody, not just the proficient and not just the masters. That's my concern. But I'd like to start off by knowing, what does our population, where is our population at reading across the board?
Well, I read in one of the newsletters that January was the month to test, so February might be a good month to report on the results.
Well, my problem with that, it just delays my question longer, because I asked the question in December. Now we're talking February about answering that question. And what's the point of sitting on a board if you can't get an answer to a question you asked? And it should be really not that hard or difficult to figure out.
Well, I think it's legitimate to want to wait till after the scheduled evaluations. And I'm sorry that means waiting 2 months. But
Well, I don't think it's legitimate, because we already have those numbers there now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this on what we don't have. So I know we already have them. And to wait until we test it, wait, excuse me, I'm talking. And to wait until we're done testing again and reformulate again, it's like, okay, but my question was really simple. And it's not a difficult answer, because there aren't that many kids in the school, and all that data should be, like I was told, it's all data. Well, it should be somewhere, and it should be able to be spit out and said, okay, here's what we got. I don't understand why it's become a difficult thing. Thank you.
thank you.
Rose? Oh, Diane
yes.
might have a question.
Well, Mark, you go ahead. You put your hand up
all
and
right.
said Rose.
I just want to point out that the Director of Pupil Services, she didn't get a raise. We're not increasing her pay salary, we're increasing the position. And I think the whole point is to try to get on top of the special education, to try to make sure that we're doing it appropriately, and hopefully bring our numbers down. I think it's outside the realm of the board and or administration to say we can't have this many special education students, so therefore we demand it goes down by 20. It doesn't work that way. If a kid is deemed to need special education support, that's what we give them. It's not our judgment to say whether it happens or not. There's a school protocol that they follow to make sure they know kids need or don't need it. And that's what we follow through the SRBI program. So I don't see that as something that is something where we can just dictate that it gets lower. It's not doesn't work that way. And then the other thing I want to say is like in the fall, I think we showed that there's a lot of community members that also support the school and would love to see it thrive. So, you know, listening to that vote and listening to people at the town meeting, there are a lot of people that support the town budget, I mean, the school and the school budget. And we have to be fiscally sound and responsible. But if you looked at what Dr. Sarli was saying about the percentages that which tie into our budget, very little increase happened at the wages and salary part of it, which really feeds into a lot of our budget and a lot of the other things that come into it between legal services. We have to do the contract this year. We don't have again, it's not our choice. So we have to have that increase. We have to pay the lawyers to support that. We don't have a choice there. And then from the energy perspective, everybody knows energy costs are going up, and you know, maybe we have to work with the Board of Finance again this year to take some of that and like have them do what we did this year, but we'll work with them to figure that out. But in some of that stuff is outside of our hands. And yeah, we're trying to do stuff like, you know, looking at the energy audit and doing everything we can to try to reduce that and maybe even get off of oil dependency altogether at some point in time. But we have to budget as if we're not going to get there to be fiscally responsible. So I think we need to show those increases. And unfortunately, you know, if you look at the actuals from 2 years ago, it was like 30,000. Last year was 50,000, and next year is 60,000. So it's just you know, we had COVID protocols that helped drive this and some other pieces. So I think, you know, I agree, you know, 5% is an increase when, you know, we don't necessarily see the student population, but we are facing a lot of obstacles that in order to overcome that, we are going to have to detract from the educational quality of the students. So it's a balancing act, but a lot of these other costs that are driving up, I don't feel we should take it out on the, you know, the shoulders of the kids. So anyway, that's just on my 2 cents, but I wanted to at least share the Director of Pupil Services is not a raise. So.
Thank you. Dave had his hand up next.
Thank you, Rose. A question for Dr. Sarli. Sam, do you want to talk about the proposed paraprofessional increase? It was in your package. I noticed it. You never really mentioned it.
I did. So the reason I included that was the salaries that we based the increases off for what you're looking at. So you guys
Yep.
haven't actually voted on that. So that if that was to not get passed, then you would see a lower amount in those lines.
Okay, but basically, did you change the steps for entry level?
For
Or was that what we agreed
paraprofessionals,
on?
I did change the entry step on that.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then you add a 5% to that.
For each one that followed to follow suit, because if we went back to the old one, it would be lesser than the first step. So yes.
Yeah, so it's actually more than a 5% increase?
Well, because the minimum wage is going to go up to $15, right? And so you'll
So-
see
15 to 1691 is more than 5%, right? 1610 to just trying to figure out the percentage. Okay, not that's a big deal,
Maybe.
but it's a pretty good increase, but that's okay, you know, all right.
Dave, maybe I can help you out there. The 1691 is this entry salary, but we only have one person at that rate. So all of the
Okay,
other people would be getting the 5%.
okay. So that most of them have been there for a while, so they're at higher steps.
Correct. And it would be 5% for all of those people.
Well, now Sally, stay with me. Next question was kind of for you. I know I'm pushing ahead, but we thank you for getting out the actuals. So we're July through the end of December, so we're halfway through the year, 50%, right? Sally, is that clear?
Yes, yes. Yep.
So do I read this correct when you say we're actually at 44.29% of our budget used?
That's correct.
I'm just trying to get a handle around this. We're actually under budget right now.
Well, so some expenses are 10-month expenses and some are 12 months.
So,
Between 40 and 50%, it would be where we would expect to be. However, a lot of our salaries for our teachers are paid out over the summer. So those aren't reflected until July.
well, I'm just trying to get a handle around where we are with our present budget and our actual, we're under budget. And now you want to increase the budget by a substantial amount, over 5% or about 5%. So I'm just trying to justify it. Can you guys justify it? Samantha, can you justify it?
So Dave, every part of
You
my
see what I'm saying?
presentation in there is what justifies for that. So I'm not sure. I want to be able to answer you. I just don't know how to.
Well, maybe I got to take a little more time, review the budget. I just got it today. And I'm an old man. It takes me a couple times through.
Okay.
Maybe I'll have some more questions for you next time.
Okay.
Maybe we're gonna
Okay.
have to go line by line. Maybe we need a couple separate meetings for
Like
budget.
a special meeting, you think? Maybe.
I mean,
Okay.
that's
Sorry.
just my
Rose, I'm
thought.
sorry.
I don't know about Rose, what you think.
I hear the problem if you just got the budget today. I agree. And
Yeah.
in the past, we have had special budget meetings, and I think it would make sense for us to do that again. How about, I'm trying to think, why don't we add an item to the agenda at the end that says scheduling a budget meeting, and we'll come up with a day we can all make, a day and a time. And we'll do that. And if you want us to go through it line by line, we'll go through it line by line.
Well, while we're on this topic, I would like to hear some input from the other board members as to how they feel about the budget as far as other meetings. I haven't
Okay,
heard
so we're
anything
gonna
from
do that.
Diane Gagnon. I heard a little from Juan. I heard nothing from John Russell. I've heard from Mark. I understand it. And Mary Ellen. I just kind of like to hear how you guys feel about it. Do you agree with me or not?
Well,
I would attend another meeting, David.
Yep.
I think perhaps everybody got it and got it today and hasn't had a chance to digest it. So probably it would be hard to comment on that. But why don't we give them the time to think about it until we get to additions to the agenda? That gives them a few minutes. And I do want to say, using my calculator, the first step there from 1610 to 1691 is 5%. That's a 5% increase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the biggest one we've seen in years.
yes, it is. Absolutely is. Yeah. There's
So I
inflation.
agree. I gotta agree with Juan. I'm a little nervous about that kind of an increase too, concerned.
Okay.
And if we
Okay.
justify it, fine. If not, hey, I don't know. Alan's got something.
Well, I know he does, but I want to get you to finish.
done.
And then you're done? Okay, so now we'll go to Alan.
Thank you. I am ex officio non-voting member. The budget's not that complicated, and I don't know if it takes another meeting to discuss it. I mean, to your point, you have 5% increases in salary. We have energy costs that's felt across the board. 5% increase doesn't concern me as much as the mutating, changing demographics. I mean, the special ed seems to be the main driver. And if that's required, of course, increasing the position of the special ed director would be required. So I'm more like to dig through the roots and find out, where is this a homegrown thing, or are we becoming a magnet for families moving in with children with special needs? That seems to be the main driver in this budget.
I do want to say that the budget isn't complicated to those of us who have done budgeting a lot, but we do have some new board members who aren't familiar with the Board of Ed budget. And as I said, in the past, we have done a budget workshop. So if that would help some of the board members, I'm more than willing for us to do it. But I agree, Alan, you understand the budget. If you don't feel the
Well-
need to coach that one, we'd understand.
to my point, there's only a couple lines that have really increased. There's lots of zeros, lots of negatives. So it doesn't require a meeting. And of course, I
Well,
would
it does for someone else.
it's only
I-
half a dozen lines.
It's
So
a free
maybe-
meeting.
We've
I think
always met.
they need to be addressed, not the entire budget, is my point.
Well, that's probably where our focus would be, that's for sure. Okay, are there, Kathy? Kathy Donahue, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I just had a couple quick questions about the budget. So the special education is going from 0.2 to 0.4 for next year, that number. And when we talk about the 30% special education, that does include speech, correct? That are receiving services?
Just,
It's based on IEPs, individualized educational plans. So if
Yeah,
that's
I know,
part
it
of
does
it,
include,
so if
But
that's
when we
part of
talk
it, yeah,
about 30% of the students receiving services, part of that is speech.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And then my other question was about grant funding and if you've taken a look at the grant funding and whether that could address maybe the new reading program or some of the other things in the budget.
Yeah, that's a
Once-
great question. So the state has, the state of Connecticut has given the Department of Education, I believe it's $6 million to assist in the implementation of the new reading curriculum, because again, it's a legislative requirement. This isn't something that I'm saying, let's do this, like this is a requirement from our state. So there is going to be a grant available to us that I definitely will be seeking out, as well as other networks that we're going to be part of. And I'll be able to give us an update next month on if we were accepted into those networks and how that will assist us as we roll out the new requirement. So we're anticipating for those to be available to us. They just are not at this time. So the grant application is not available at this time, but I am actively stalking it.
Okay, yeah, because I saw that online also. The other thing was, could you send me the full budget package that you had sent out with the explanations? That would be great.
Yes, I will send that out tonight or tomorrow, the latest.
Thank you.
Mark,
I just want to point out that the actuals to the end of December don't actually completely reflect the end of the middle of the year. I think the true middle of the year ends up being in the middle of January. I think it's actually probably about now, if not maybe late last week. But anyways, Dave, just to let you know that report isn't quite there to the half. You're right. It's about half the budget or a little less, but I mean,
Yeah.
still, I just wanted to point out that it really doesn't quite reflect the half year point. And then
So
to
we're-
Sally's point, there are things that come in over the summer that will have to be paid out. So that it
Yeah.
just ties to the
I
fact that,
understand,
so.
but it's an indicator and we're doing fairly good considering, and we probably will be, say it's 50%, so. Right? Thank you.
any
Rose,
other?
I
Yes,
have one
Juan?
question, yes. I was at a finance board meeting when the first selectman was speaking about being served with 2 suits, one from the Commission on Human Rights and one from the Department of Labor. So I'm wondering when are we going to have an executive session so we can be apprised as to what is actually going on? How much is this going to cost the town? All of that stuff. I think as a board member, and I think all the rest of the board members, we should all be apprised as to what's going on, that we have human rights on our case and we have the Department of Labor on our case. I'd
Well,
like to have an executive session for that.
I would like to say the first selectman was mistaken. There are no lawsuits. We've had a complaint, and that's very different than a lawsuit. And the first thing that had to happen was the complaint to go to the appropriate lawyer. And Dr. Sarli will work with the lawyer to understand what's going on, and then we will have a presentation to the board. But we're not ready yet. Dr.
So-
Sarli, do you think we could be ready in February?
I think so.
All right, so we'll plan on that in February.
So we were misinformed about lawsuits?
Yeah, it was a complaint, not a lawsuit. They're
Okay.
different things.
Yes. I have another question.
Uh-huh.
Special ed kids. How many people are involved in tagging, if you wish, these kids, and in what grade are they tagged? So, I mean, are they 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old? Who decides? How many people are involved in the decision?
Diane, that's actually a really wonderful question. It's not a unilateral decision. So it is a team. So when a student is going through that process of identification, they are part of what's called a PPT. So it's a team decision made up of school
I'm familiar, yeah.
personnel as well as parents. And there's no cutoff necessarily. It's not like you will be identified by grade 1. That's not how it works, because students will show at different times and different needs. And so it's not always necessarily an IEP. Sometimes they have a 504, if you've ever heard of that, and it's an accommodation. So the short answer is that it is not a unilateral decision. There's a team of teachers. There's testing and data collected before any child's identified. There's tiered intervention strategies that are put in place that are monitored for growth. And it's when there isn't growth that's happening, and then that is monitored and tracked, where the team comes together to test and to analyze at a different level. So it's never just a unilateral decision. It's backed and supported by data, and then tracked and followed as students are given goals. And so there are times where students will be exited out of special education because they have met their goals. And that is always a really exciting time in education if that can happen. But that's not always the case for everyone. As you know, as special education meets a range of learners. So I hope that's it's a short answer, but I think it's detailed enough to give you what you're asking for.
And how many exits have we had out of special ed, let's say in the past 10 years in Hampton?
I couldn't give you that on the spot. I don't know. I'd have to look into that for you.
Is Sam in here tonight?
She is, but even she wouldn't know that off the top of her head. We wouldn't want to give you inaccurate data.
She
But we
doesn't
can
wanna
get
give
that.
me
We can get that
a
data.
guess amount? An about guess? No?
She's there. I don't know if she would feel comfortable with that.
10
Sam?
years is a long time to be
Okay,
remembering.
5 years, 5 years. Let's go 5 years.
The most common students that exit out are the speech students. They come in young. We are feeling that there's an increase in that. I've spoken with colleagues at other schools. There's no evidence that it's related to COVID and kids having masks, but at an early age, but there has been conversations about that. So the children that are most exited from speech before they exit Hampton or elementary school are the speech students.
So how many have we had in the past 5 years? About,
I couldn't give you a number.
okay.
I really couldn't.
It's almost disturbing that we're up to 30%. It's almost disturbing. To me, it's disturbing.
Yes.
Or it's great we're
and-
giving these kids the services they need.
I think, like personally, and I don't want to blame everything on COVID, but I do think that it's had an impact on some of our students' skills, not just our students, but students across the country, the world. I don't know, but you know, we're battling those gaps. And and we're making progress, so.
I think we've always been pretty high on special ed in Hampton Elementary. And I don't know, there's got to be an answer. There's got to be a solution.
We'll have to work on that.
I think we should.
Yes.
I think we do.
So are there any more budget questions? Then let's move on to the principal's report.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
It's good to see your faces and voices. I added a little bit of information about our learning targets that we're working on. Our goals are for students to take have a better understanding that it's in part their responsibility to be learners and to take ownership of their learning. So we're moving down into the idea of what's the success criteria and being able to identify it so that they can have the language to know. And this goes both ways, not just for students, but also for teachers, to give them clarity when they're instructing and not just loading them with content. So that they have a clear understanding of what's important for them to learn and what is it that they need to know, what do they need to do, and what do they need to understand. They don't just need to listen to the teacher, give them information. And then the performance task is something that we've focused on a lot, and part of that was the part of the workshop model, is understanding what evidence do I have as a student to show that I hit my learning target and that I understand what my goals are. So that's a short summary of the direction that we're going, and we're going to just enhance and continue working on that. I missed you all last month. I was struck with the COVID.
Oh.
So, does anyone have any questions?
I guess not. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Okay, on to business coordinators report.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to speak to David's question a little bit. we have items in the budget that will be significantly over, and thankfully, some such as insurance that will be under budget. So we are hoping that with the additional appropriation for the diesel, for the oil, that we are going to make it through the year. But it is going to be very tight. We're not having a large surplus to give back to the town, David. We will be using all of our money this year. And does anyone have any specific questions about the budget versus actual?
Sally,
Yes.
thank you for your answer and getting in the actuals out and getting the reports out. When will we know better? Next quarter, April?
So
Actuals?
so we'll have another month of oil usage in at the end of next month. And that is going to be an important number to get through the year.
Any other unanticipated insurance or any of that stuff? Increases?
Let's see. Insurance is actually going to be a savings for us this year, as well as we've gotten some additional school readiness grant funding and tuition. So those are the things that are on top of my mind right now.
My feeling is you gotta come in at budget.
Oh, yes.
And that's my concern about the 5% increase. But time will tell, I guess. Thank you, Sally.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Are we locked in with a price on oil?
We've locked in a certain amount of gallons. I'm not sure that it's going to get us through the year, but we do have several thousands of gallons locked in.
And what kind of price did we get?
It was 3.67 for approximately 7,000 gallons. Is that correct, Sally?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to be digging, but
Yeah.
thank you. for
Yep.
mentioning.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Alan?
Do we have the heating system balanced yet? I just noticed the weekly visits of the mechanical service trucks there constantly. We have a grip on that situation? On the heating system? I know last time I attended a meeting in Purpose, it was almost 80 degrees in the media room. And the Encore mechanical service trucks are there several times a week. Do we have that situation under control? Do we have the budget to handle that?
So we have a contract with them, right, Sally? That's the Encores are contracted services. So
Yes.
yes,
So they're retained?
Yes,
correct.
they are.
So we're never afraid to call them if something's wrong.
Okay.
And we know that there needs to be repairs. There's things that need to happen, and that's what F&O has been working on in terms of having our systems evaluated and brought out there. So we're working on it, Alan.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions for Sally? Hearing none. We will go on to committee and liaison reports. I'm sorry, I don't know if communications met.
Yes, we
You
did.
did?
Yep, we
Okay.
met on January 10th. We kind of went over the current communication tools the school utilizes to get out to like their community member, their family members, which is School Messenger is the main one, which sends out phone, text, or email blasts. We talked about, the newsletters teachers send out and all that, as well as the website and just kind of the last time we sent the mailing out, it was $1,600 for a townwide mailing, and the committee decided that we do want to do another townwide mailing this spring. So at the next meeting, we're going to discuss the website kind of in more in depth and kind of lock down what we want to get in the spring website, the spring newsletter. And we will meet again in February.
Great, thank you. Finance and operations.
Yeah, so we met last Thursday. Big topic was the work that Mary Ellen has been doing, and Dave, as far as continuing to look into alternative heating sources with mini splits and basically trying to migrate off of oil. So we had a proposal from a third company to go over what's possible and what they would want to do. For that particular company, it was, I'll say, less of a proposal and more of a plan for a proposal and what that would cost. So anyway, we are looking to digest all that information and potentially even to have a special meeting to go over a path forward. And then besides that, again, thanks to Mary Ellen, she has been looking into what we could do possibly for the sunroom replacement. And we might have to just figure out how to finance that. But that's an area where if we replaced the glass in that, that would be an energy savings overall. So we are looking at that. And then we did talk about this year's budget some, as well as did a preliminary assessment and review with Dr. Sarli of what she had presented tonight. And then Mary Ellen, did you want to bring up what you had at the energy meeting today?
Yeah, thank you. Rose and I and Kate, my sister Kate Donnelly, who's the chair of the Green Energy Committee in town, met with our Eversource account representative. It was a very good meeting. We went over a lot about the heat pump project, which I can share with F&O. But I wanted to bring up two things tonight because I would like permission to go ahead with them. One of them is called retro commissioning, and our representative Martin Pagtek can get this started with Eversource for us. An Eversource person would come to Hampton Elementary and check all the variable frequency drives that we had put on the heating system in February of 2018. And the reason we brought this, or I brought this up, was because a few of the people who came through looking at the possibility of putting in heat pumps said, well, that's not set right, or that's not right. And so when Martin heard that, he said, this is a free service. It's a free service, and that's all he needs me to do is to send them the building name, the address, and our account number, and they would send somebody out to adjust any of those drives. And another one is, this is a no-cost feasibility study. We would have no obligation to follow through with it. There's no out-of-pocket cost whatsoever associated with it. And what it is that Eversource contracts with a third party that they vet. And this third party would provide us with a battery the size of a tractor trailer. It would require a cement pad, and the battery would probably operate the entire school for 4 to 6 hours, and it would reduce the peak demand charge. So I just want to explain a little bit about peak demand. I know Sally knows about it. The demand charge is a monthly fee that you pay as part of the cost of maintaining the electric utilities infrastructure required to deliver electricity to your building. The kilowatt charge or demand charge is based on the greatest amount of electricity used in any 1/2 hour period during the billing period. So whatever our peak is, we get charged. So I looked at our December 2022 bill, and there were 2 demand charges, one of transmission for $310 and one for distribution, and that was $304. So the battery idea is to reduce our peak demand charges because the electricity would be drawn from the battery rather than the grid. So that's one reason that Eversource is supporting it, because it reduces power being pulled from the grid. There's another program that I could explain at some point where if you're a significant user of electricity, they can alert you when there's going to be a heat wave or something that's going to pull a lot of energy from the grid, and you can automatically turn up your air conditioning and turn down your heating needs so that it reduces what the pull from the grid. But that we may not be significant and it may not happen many times in the year. But if you are one of those customers, what happens is they credit you some money. But I'd like to go ahead and give Martin our account numbers and have somebody come out and look at our variable drives, and also have somebody come out and see if it's feasible to put a battery at Hampton Elementary. So we'd be saving money every month. It would work. I asked him, would this work with our solar panels? He said, absolutely. We would run off that in a power outage to the point where we ran out of it, and then our generator would kick in. That's it.
So you would like the board to vote to give you permission to proceed with these two possible projects?
Sure, I don't care if it's a vote or if it's just no objection, I'd go ahead and do it. It doesn't cost us anything to do either one of them. They're free services.
Mona, your hand is up.
No, I don't think so.
You okay? Is there anyone who thinks Mary Ellen should not move ahead with these possible money saving options? Is
Also
there anyone?
investigate, right? I mean, the one is to have somebody come out and do the audit for free and make the adjustments for free, and the next one is more of an assessment on what's possible. So yeah, I have no objections to that.
And I'll send out the notes. I took notes as we talked with Martin today, and I'll send them out to the F&O committee and to you, Alan.
Okay,
And Diane. I mean, I'm sorry.
And
Kathy.
it looks like
Donahue.
Kathy.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I could send it to the whole board if you want. It doesn't matter to me, but
Yeah,
it's kind of steeped in something.
it's probably a good idea. Help people begin to
Okay.
become familiar.
Okay.
All right. So I haven't heard anyone saying don't do it, so we can take that as permission, I guess.
Okay.
John has a question, Rose.
Oh, John, yes?
Yeah, I'd like to request to be at that meeting if I could be, whenever Source decides to walk through the building, because I'd really be interested in hearing what they had to say and actually visualizing that whole thing.
Can you work that out, Mary Ellen?
I actually don't know how that's going to proceed. I don't know if it'll end up where they want to talk to Sam and schedule it, or Dr. Sarli or whatever. But remember that we don't always get notification. That's we did with all the heat pump people because they actually scheduled with us. So I'll try. That's what I guess I'm saying. I'll try.
If you just let me know when they're going to do it, and it's okay, I'd like to walk through with them.
I think
Okay.
it's great. I think
And-
it's great.
Actually, Dr. Sarli and Sam, if you can both remember what John said, then if you know and I don't know, then go ahead and contact him.
We will. We most certainly will.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Anybody else on the committee want to be there?
I had a thought today, John, when I was going through all my documents for the meeting, that I will send you all our energy audits that we've had done on the building, because they're quite detailed as far as our systems go. And also what we've already done that were part of the energy audits that have been accomplished, like the variable pumps.
That'd be great.
The
I'd be
dry.
really interested in seeing that.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to policies. A meeting was scheduled and I put it in my calendar for a week after it happened. So we have to reschedule for February. The ad hoc job description subcommittee didn't meet, but I think we've heard back from the lawyer and I think we're ready to meet. So we'll meet by the February meeting.
Rose,
Yes, Juan.
excuse me, can we backdate? I had a question about policy.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
What's your question?
I put an FOI for this very, very specific policy. And that FOI request came back and it didn't answer the question I actually answered. So I'm gonna ask you and I'm gonna ask Dr. Sarli, because you're basically the ones that created it, I think, in my own terms, but okay. If a non-union person at the school gets into some kind of disagreement or some kind of problem with an administrator, that person is supposed to have another, either person who works at Hampton Elementary or another non-union person to go with them before the superiors. And I have a huge problem with that, only because non-union personnel are not covered by union regulations. And so I don't know why you or Dr. Sarli would be asking someone, you know, you can bring in a lawyer, but you can't bring in an advocate with you. You can't bring in a citizen with you. You can't, it has to be a non-union employee at the school. And I really disagree with that, because I'm a very strong union person and that should never be allowed. But I still haven't seen that particular policy that says it has to be a non-union person. Because the answers I got were state statutes and all that stuff, and that doesn't refer to any of that stuff. I want to see that policy. If it's in our books, I want to see it. I still haven't seen it. So I think it's a creation of imagination, my own terms, but unless I see it, I think I'm right. I don't think you guys have a right to do that to a non-union person. And I don't think that policy actually exists. So can I give you, I can FOI it again, but I want to see the policy. I want to see that piece of work, that paper in front of my hand that specifically says a non-union person will actually volunteer to go with another non-union person who has no tenure or no protection before two supervisors or whatever supervisors, and then they might be intimidated, they might be threatened, they might be exposing themselves. Okay, I want to see that policy written specifically the way it was quoted to me. I don't think it exists. And I have a huge problem with that if it doesn't exist, because we're lying to people. And I don't want to lie to anybody. It's either the truth or it's false, and it doesn't exist. It's people's imagination. I want to see that policy written down the way it was quoted to me, the way it was quoted to Dana, specifically with those words put into that policy, because I don't think it exists. Thank you.
Didn't we talk about this before?
No,
Didn't you request this before? Juan,
Yes, I
Rose,
did. I FOI'd it, but when I got the paperwork from the FOI, there's nothing in there that even comes close to touching this specific policy. And that's why I want to see it, because
wait, so Juan, so like you said that
excuse me,
the
I'm speaking.
okay,
Okay, it's just like being quite honest. I don't think it exists, and I think it's a lot of bluffing, and I think it's intimidation, and I think it's wrong to put non-union personnel on the line and risk their job just because they're defending another person. And if other people in that school don't come up to volunteer to defend somebody, I understand why. Who would put their job on the line for someone they might not know? So I want to see it. Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to ad hoc minority recruitment and retention subcommittee. They did not meet. Ad hoc superintendent's evaluation subcommittee. That work is, the next step in that work is going to be done on the third, is it the 31st, I think, when we're all meeting?
At 5 o'clock, yes.
Yeah. So that's the next step for that committee. So we haven't met. And we have CABE.
Need a report?
Yeah, do you want to give a report in?
Talk louder. Can you hear me now? No.
Oh,
Barely.
Not really, Ann. Talk louder.
Can you hear me now?
No. You're on speaker though.
You know what I think
I'm not getting it.
she's not talking right now.
Oh,
No, Ann. You want to work on it and come back to it?
Is your volume all the way up, Mary Ellen?
Is my volume all the way up? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not,
Okay.
she's not coming through my phone, so it won't come through the computer.
Well, I meant your volume on your phone. Sometimes mine goes down without telling me.
Okay, try again.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably right. I probably have my thumb on it.
Can you hear
Sorry.
me now?
Yep.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No, but I'll try. Okay, so most recently, the CABE Board of Directors had a full-day meeting with a lot of reflection and goal setting and shifting priorities based on the significant transitions that it's going through as an organization. So continuing to focus on the diversity and equity and inclusion initiatives and planning for the future. Is that good enough?
That was great. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. On to EastCon, Mary Ellen?
We had our January meeting last night. We passed the teacher's contract, routine kind of stuff. The financial situation at EastCon is vastly improved. So that's about it.
Great. Any questions? Then we'll move on to additions to the agenda. Would someone like to add the item of planning a budget meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call roll based on where you show up on my computer. So Dave? You are muted.
Yep. Okay,
Okay, thank you. Mary Ellen,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
John,
He said yes, I was muted. I apologize.
okay. Juan,
No,
okay, the motion carries
Yeah.
1, 2.
Anne,
Sorry, Ann.
Yes.
Yes, okay. The motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1. So that's to add it to the agenda for the discussion. Can we find a time that we can all make? That's kind of my worry right now. So should we aim for, how about the first Wednesday in February, the 8th?
Board of Finance.
The first Wednesday? I thought they were the second.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
That is the second
Yeah.
Wednesday, Rose.
Yep.
Oh, I said the 8th. I meant to say the first. I'm sorry.
Second Wednesday. The first is the first.
The first is also the first Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Would that work for people?
I couldn't do it, but that's okay.
You cannot do it?
Not the first Wednesday.
Can you do the third Wednesday?
I think so.
Okay, how about the 15th, people? Is there anyone who cannot do the, okay, Dave said he can do it.
Yes.
Mark and
I can do
Diane,
it.
can- Mary Ellen,
That is the
Yeah.
day before our F and O meeting, not that it really matters, but
yeah,
15th.
Sure.
John can do it. Juan, can you make it if we have it, even though you voted against adding it on the?
no,
No? Can you make another day if we change it?
I'll think about it.
Okay. And the 22nd is our regular meeting. So how about Monday, the 6th? Can people make that?
The 6th of February.
Yeah, that's the first Monday in February. I don't have the town calendar up. I can get to that.
John thinks it's the selectmen's meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
the first Monday is a selectmen's meeting. Okay, never mind that.
I would just recommend we leave it on the 15th, Rose.
Okay, yeah, because looking at it, I don't have many other days that month. All right. So, 1 minute, I have to come back to Zoom. I'd entertain a motion to add a special meeting to the Board of Ed calendar for February 15th. At
So
7.
moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
So we had 2 volunteers, Dave and Mary Ellen. Any discussion?
Gonna be this 7 o'clock or 6:30 or what?
Well, I was thinking of 7. Does anyone else? Do people want 6:30 or 7?
7.
Okay,
Seven.
For anybody.
7.
Seven's fine.
Okay, all right. So let's vote. To schedule the meeting. Dave,
Yep. Okay,
Mary Ellen. February 15th at
Yes.
7. Mary Ellen, yes. Mark?
Do you want to do Ann?
Well, I wrote her at the
Oh,
end because I
okay,
skipped her
good.
last.
I'm good. Yes.
Okay. Matthew,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
John,
Sure.
Juan,
No,
Ann?
She said
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The motion carries 7-1. Okay, on to next agenda planning. So we'll have a discussion of the complaint. Is there anything else? Oh, we'll have some data on our children's reading progress. Data. Is there any other subject people would like to cover?
We're gonna
As
vote on
Probably
the
need to have
budget.
more discussion on the budget goes.
Yeah. Discuss budget. And if anyone thinks of anything else, contact either Dr. Sarli or me, and it can be added. Okay, we're ready for our audience for citizens and staff. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there
I'll
a second?
second it.
Okay. Dave? We have to vote.
Yep.
Dave?
Let's
Mary
adjourn.
Ellen?
Yes.
Mark?
Yep.
Matthew?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Juan?
yes.
Ann?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. We will adjourn at 8:32 PM.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Good night, everyone.
Night.